Alright, what's up guys? My name is Zach and today I am driving a 2018 Mini Cooper. Yes, that's what this car is called. It's just a 2018 Mini Cooper. Up front is a 1.5 liter turbocharged inline 3-cylinder engine, and down below is a 6-speed automatic gearbox. And if you want to read more of my thoughts on the 2018 Mini Cooper, head on over to carmarshal.com/overdrive, where I'll be writing a complete article about it. But let's get back to that 1.5 liter turbocharged inline 3. That's not bad for a 1.5 liter. I was actually really surprised. It's by no way or any stretch of the imagination that this is a fast car. This is not a fast car. This is actually the cheapest Mini Cooper you can buy. It starts at around $22,000, so you're not going to be any speed demon. It's not going to be like the S or anything like that. It's a 1.5 liter. This is the economy sort of version. But that being said, it's not disappointing. That's definitely faster. It feels a lot quicker than my economy Pontiac G6. So, as some of you may know, BMW makes Mini Cooper now. They used to be their own little separate thing, but now BMW makes Mini Cooper. And so this inline 3-cylinder, this 1.5 liter turbo, is actually the same gas engine out of the BMW i8, their hybrid supercar, which is pretty interesting. You get half of an i8 in this thing. Now, transmission shifts pretty smooth, and this automatic transmission is actually an over $1,000 option, which personally isn't an option I would partake in or I would purchase. I'm just a bigger fan of stick shift, and I drove another Mini Cooper, which I'll be referencing that review a lot. I drove a Mini Cooper Countryman, and that stick shift was great. So I would just prefer a Mini Cooper stick shift. Now let's talk about the interior. Well, in front of me I have one full gauge, that's my speedometer, and it has all my little warning lights inside of it. Then to the left, I sort of have a half gauge. It looks like it's been pushed behind the speedometer, and that's my tach, which this guy's just pulling out into traffic, all right? And then to the right, I have my fuel, which is it's an actual level, so it'll go down the side of the gauge as you burn more and more fuel. And I think that's really cool. I think it's a really new and interesting way to do the fuel gauge that's not boring like every other car. On the steering wheel on the right, I have my Bluetooth phone options, and on the left, I have my cruise control. In the center, I have a giant circular screen like every other Mini. The thing about it is, though, there's a couple different things that I think are really cool. First of all, it has a really up-to-date screen in the middle. I feel like this is a very 2018 car. And what I mean by that, the fact that some cars reuse their technology over and over and over again, and especially Minis, they've done this giant circular center pod since Minis were invented. But it looks very modern, it looks very sleek. The other cool thing about that circular gauge is the outside is filled with LEDs. So when you change the climate controls or you change other settings, the little lights actually change around the gauge. It's really cool and kind of adds this ambient mood to the car, which is really cool. And it does look a lot more modern. It looks more futuristic. It looks more up to date. Down below that, you have your 3 climate control options where you choose the degree. It's a dual climate, so you can set one side of the car warmer than the other. Down below that, we have heated seats, front and rear defrosters, AC settings, that sort of thing. And then down below that, you have toggle switches, one of which is for the auto start and stop at lights. You guys know me. You guys know I hate that feature, but honestly, it hasn't been noticeable in the Mini. The right of that is traction control off, but in the middle of that is the start-stop switch. So you can set the key wherever, you put your foot on the brake, and you toggle that switch, and the car turns on. I think it's really cool. It's almost like a fighter jet, and pretty modern. Down below that, there is a USB and aux input, which is really nice for those of us who still have older iPhones or Androids. Those same toggle switches can actually be found up top to turn on lights, 2 cup holders, the shifter, and then down next to the shifter, really behind the shifter, is the different settings or the control module for the center screen. So like in BMWs, I can switch through the screens with this little knob down here, which this control switch is actually in a really comfortable position. You can kind of rest your arm on the armrest and then just kind of switch through stuff as need be. Speaking of the armrest, nothing really too crazy here except for the fact that inside is sort of a, it's almost like a plaid design. It's kind of interesting. It reminds me of like a Golf GTI. And the other thing is that it appears that on the outside of it facing the passenger, there's actually a speaker in the center console. Now, this car is a two-door, but it does have rear seats. All right, time for everyone's favorite segment of Does Zach Fit in the Back? Well, what I can tell you is that headroom is actually great. Headroom is actually really good in here. It's really just kind of difficult, as you saw, to get in. But once you're in, back here, I have a speaker on either side and a nice cup holder that's sort of, you know, right where I'd rest my arm, which is really nice. That being said, though, you got maybe 10 inches of cargo room behind the seats, so not a whole lot. You do kind of sacrifice trunk room for it being a four-seater, but what can you do? Other than that, though, as long as you don't have really mean friends that scoot all the way back, this seat, the passenger seat, can come up way further, and you could fit 4 people in here. You know, it's not going to be the most comfortable thing. It's not going to be a 7 Series BMW back here, but it definitely works. And I just noticed I have a third cup holder right here, so one person can have 2 drinks. Now, the interesting thing about this interior, which you guys have probably noticed because I probably appear pretty far away in the video, well, that's because this interior does not feel mini. It feels pretty big. It feels really roomy. And so the windshield, my arm is fully extended. I can't even touch the windshield. I can with my left hand, but with my right hand, I can't even touch the windshield. I'm not scooted really far back. My feet are very comfortable on the pedals. I'm very, you know, pretty close to the steering wheel. It's just the windshield is quite a ways away. Going along with the interior, headroom in this is crazy. I have probably a good 4 or 5 inches above me, and I'm 5'11". So really, if you're 6'5", with a little adjustment, lean the seat back just a little bit, move the seat back a little bit, you can fit in here decently easily. I'm not having any issues, and I'm 5'11", like I said. One interesting thing I did find, because whenever I review current year cars, I always go online and I build them on my own. And one interesting thing I did find, while this car lacks a lot of features that can be added, you can get the signature Mini Cooper pinstripes for an additional $100. Just thought that was kind of interesting that you could get pinstripes for $100. So like I said at the beginning of this video, this is the base model. This is the cheapest, lowest of the low Mini Coopers. It doesn't even have a sub name or a suffix to its name. It's just the 2018 Mini. It's not an S, not a Countryman, not a, Jean-Claude Van Damme spec. I forget what the name is. It's like a dude's name is like one of the specs. Forget it. But this is the base of the base. And what's interesting about this is that, honestly, I never really would have thought, oh, there's another Mini Cooper. Do I wave? Oh, he waved back! I got away from a Mini Cooper owner! This is a very, very obtainable car, and for some reason in my mind, I don't know if it's like this for other people, but Mini Coopers were never like economy cars. I felt like once BMW kind of took over ownership of them, they were always more so luxury than economy. This is really interesting to drive because this is a very affordable car. If I were to put all my money that I make, I could afford the payments on a brand new Mini Cooper. That's crazy to me. And so it's going to be interesting these next few years as the Ford Motor Company has decided to stop selling Fiestas and Fusions in the US, and now their cheapest car is going to be $22,000, the EcoSport. It's going to be interesting to see if the sales increase on cars like this. So would I buy a 2018 Mini Cooper? if I needed a daily driver, this would definitely be something I put on my list of cars to look at. Like I said, that 1.5 liter turbo feels great. It's a lot peppier than the SFE that I drove. And yeah, it's a 3-cylinder, but honestly, it outperforms a lot of 4-cylinders that I've driven. The other thing that I've really noticed about this base model Mini Cooper is that it's just not as weird as the Countryman that I drove. Granted, the Countryman that I drove is now, I believe, 5 years old. I believe it was a 2013. This car doesn't have the weird rail system that the Countryman had, where you can like pick if you want a sunglasses holder or cup holders. This Mini Cooper doesn't have the weird door handles where you had to awkwardly pinch your fingers. This Mini Cooper doesn't have the weird stick the key into the dashboard. It's just, honestly, truthfully, like I said, this car is just less weird. And so if you like Mini Coopers, if you like Mini Cooper's weirdness, this is probably the least weird Mini Cooper I've ever been in. Well, I hope you guys enjoyed the video. I hope you guys learned something about the 2018 Mini Cooper. But again, if you want to read more of my thoughts, head on over to carmarshal.com/overdrive. But again, hope you guys enjoyed it. Don't forget to rate the video, comment on the video, and subscribe if you really liked it. Take care, guys. There goes a sight from my soul.